we're going to talk about pre-turned needle turn applique. I like to do handwork, but with this method you could also do machine applique as well, or you know, the different things you can do. I don't like raw edge applique because I'm really rough on my stuff. I don't hand wash everything and put it through delicate dryer. No, my husband usually does the laundry, and he's like, I don't care, I'm just going to do it. And he does a great job. But, you know, he's not real good about, you know, separating things. He does the whites and the colors, and so that's good. At least we don't have pink underwear, which has happened before. And but, you know, he throws everything in the dryer, and that's okay. So I'm hard on applique, and if it's raw edge, even if it's fused down, it tends to ravel around the edges after it's being washed, especially on a quilt. And, you know, and if you have kids, they're going to pick at every little thing that's sticking up until they rip it right off. You know, that's just kids and cats. Okay, so this method, we're pre-turning the edges before we either do hand needle turn or the hand stitching on it, or you can do the invisible stitch with machine applique, and we'll eventually go into how to do that as well. So it can be done with anything. Now first, today we're going to talk about how to prepare the applique, how to prepare your background, and how I mark things without having a lot of tracing to do, although I tend to overdo everything, you know that. So, but it can be done either way. I like hand turn, especially in the winter time, because I am very cold-natured. I'm freezing all the time, so I like to sit on the couch and watch Netflix, but I can't stand to just sit there. I gotta have something in my hands to do. And so if it's pre-turned and glued on, I just sit there and stitch away mindlessly. So, and it's pretty fast. I like to do this. What I have selected is my pattern that we're going to do, and you're welcome to do this along with me, or you can select your own pattern that you want to use. Doesn't matter. And what I'm using is one of the last of the table runners, so that I've been working on, from shabbyfabrics.com, and I'll put a link in the post after I'm done with today's session. So if you want to follow along, go to shabbyfabrics.com. At the bottom of the page is something that says free downloads, and then you scroll through those and look for it's called the, what's it called? Easy Piece Table Runner series, and this is for the month of October. These are not the colors. My color ink ran out, so I just have it in black and white and a little bit of blue, so I've got to go and get some more. But this is what the pattern looks like. So you can print it off. They have kits available if you want to do it by applique, and these are laser cut, so therefore they're going to be raw edge applique, or just use your own fabrics. I'm going to use my own. I've done, and then after we're done with the needle turning both edges, then we'll go ahead and put it together at the last session. So, okay, so what you need to do the background here. Turn it this way. Okay, you need 2 pieces of fabric, 6 inches, and it says by 12.5. I cut mine 14. I want a little bit wider in case I get some raveling, or I'm not holding it really good. The writing we're gonna go, I'm gonna change the camera in a minute. So you want, for the background only, or whatever background you want it to, this middle piece is 6 inches wide by 4, I cut 14. Then the instructions say you need a top sashing, so you need two of these, that is 1.5 inches wide, and again I cut it 14, and then you need some grass, which is 1.5 inches wide by 14 inches. Then I take my piece and I just fold it in half, because I want to find the center point and press it. Fold it in half the other way so that you have a center. Because I have different way of marking things. There's a lot of times where, say if you're doing on a dark fabric, you can't mark it. It's hard to do, and a lot of times, especially, I'm really bad about this, is that I'll put stabilizer and everything else to know how bad, no matter how big your light table is or how bright your light is, you can't see through it anyway. So other things I need to prepare this. So this is the first thing I did, is I took the pieces and I just simply sewed a 1/4 inch to get my background piece. So I have 2 of these, one for each side of the table runner. Okay. Another thing you need to use is some kind of vinyl. Actually, what this one is one I use over and over again. It's one of those you know, those old-fashioned overhead projectors where they were really big, and they had them when we were kids. They put it against the screen, and they put this on top of the big bright white light, and they'd write on it so you could see it up on the board. So that's what these are left over, and I just use them. You can also use a document protector or just a piece of vinyl. Okay, you need your pattern. And, oh, here's the pattern. Okay, this is what a normal pattern looks like, and this one I just put it together because it's really pretty wide. I want to find the center of my pattern. I'm not doing math, okay? I will fold it up and hold it up to the light. And I'm finding, now this one, these things are going to go up to the very top, like it. The spider webs are going to go all the way into these corners, so I'm disregarding that. So you fold this in half with finding the top and the bottom just so that you can put a line through it. Do the same thing this way, and I want to find the middle. So I'm finding the middle. It's about right like that. So just again, fold this in half. And then, okay, let's move this camera. I'm going to take this orange through the middle. And now the picture shouldn't be upside down, or it shouldn't be backwards now. I'm marking this because these lines are going to be important as I set up. I could draw it straight. Okay, so there, I've taped it together, and don't use the shiny Scotch tape. Use the one that's a matte finish so that you can draw over it. Okay, and then I'm going to take my acetate piece here, and usually I will take my Wonder Clips and clip them together, and I'm going to draw this. Now, a lot of times with applique, it will tell you what to stitch first, second, third, whatever. And a lot of times they will give you, and this one does, it gives you a reverse diagram. And how I put these together is I took my paper scissors, and I cut the shorter one. If you don't have, if your pattern, whatever you're using, doesn't come with a reversed diagram for you, it's easy to create one. There's different ways of doing it, and we all have our favorites. You can usually take it to a copier and reverse it if you want to. I'm not going to do that. This is what I do instead, and I'll show you if in case I'm just going to tape that together. Leave that there. Okay. Okay, so if I have my piece of acetate here, or vinyl, or document protector, whatever, and you want it big enough, I'm going to take a Sharpie marker, or any permanent marker, and this is how I'm going to trace this. So I will put in my dotted lines first thing through my center, because every time I line up a piece, this works extremely well if you don't want to mark the background, and there's times where you really don't want to. I have been known to do some applique on some silk du peony. I really don't want to mark that silk du peony up with any kind of marker, because anytime you put any kind of water on silk, any kind of silk, you end up with it shadowing out and bleeding out and making a mess. And you can't wet it. You can't use the water soluble one. You really can't iron it. It's sometimes the dyes react with the markers that you're using. So sometimes it's a problem. So anyway, I've darkened my crosshairs, and I'm not going to do all of this. But what's nice about this is if I've marked these and I don't finish, I can come back and do this. So I'm not going to mark every little dashed line, because on this one, every time you see a dashed line, that means that some piece is behind this one. I'm only going to mark these dark ones. So I'm going to start, and this is a good way you do. Okay, you can look at it and find out which is number one. Okay, here's number one, and I think I'll cut this big piece like this. And just trace it out. Okay, and here's the tree, and it juts down into that, but I'm not going, and then I can even label it with a number one if I want to. Okay, and then I would put just a few. I'm just going to do a few of these, like a section, just the part I'm going to demo today, which is this house. I want the house. Oops, that was the door, not the house. I can't draw. If you make a mistake, you can always take some alcohol, regular, not scotch or whiskey or rum. I'm talking rubbing alcohol. And just wipe it. It'll come right off. I've used this same piece of acetate for, well, this is the last one, so I've used this for a year. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm just going to draw in this house. And I'm going to put where the windows go. Now I'm just sort of analyzing this as I'm drawing it along, because it looks like number 3 is 2 and 3. This is 2. Is the background of the house. So the first thing we're going to put in is the tree, because it's behind everything else. Let's see, any more? I'll do there's more of the house, part of the house. And I just want to finish this one section here. Well, I can't draw today. I'm trying to rush it. And see, for this I don't need a light box. I can see through this really well. And I'm going to show you a little bit how to make your own light box, because we all have enough stuff in our sewing room. I guess it doesn't have to be exact. No one's going to know once it's done whether you've drawn that exactly perfect or not. Okay. So now when I take this off, I've got my design. Say you have a pattern that you don't have the reverse diagram to cut your pieces. Now, why you would need a reverse diagram is if you are doing either fusible applique, raw edge applique, which is raw edge, or you're going to do this method for your pre-turned applique, then you need to put your markings on the very back of it, so your right side of your fabric doesn't have any markings. So that's when you would need a reverse diagram. If you are doing traditional needle turn, all of your markings are made on top of the fabric, so you would not need this. Well, I'm not going to do this traditionally. That's too hard. Another thing I like to do, because this is overkill, you don't have to do this. Well, here, I'll show you. Like, here's my background piece, okay? To place this, to place my pieces, I match up these lines. I put some clips here. And guess what? I can slide in my pieces, glue them down or whatever, then you're good to go. So you don't have to mark the backing. If you want to mark your backing and you want to have a light table, make your own light table out of your cutting board, okay? So I take 4 spools of thread. I'm going to take this under here. My spools of thread, lay this on top. Then I have this light source. I put it underneath. And now I have a light table. Oh, let me see, where's the light? Here's the right one. But you can see now I could see through that. I'm not going to write. I'm going to leave mine so that I don't have to write on that because it's going to be hard to see that anyway. I may come back and type, but now you can move this light wherever you're drawing and trace your pattern on the top. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be using the other method. But anyway, okay, now the next thing I want to do is prepare the pieces. And this is where you can use the reversed applique. Or if you don't have reversed applique, guess what? This went this way. It's reversed. So, to prepare the pieces, what you need is you need the rinse away, tear away stabilizer. Okay, and I'm just going to use this one because it's just easier to see it for me. Reversed one. Okay. For the things you need to prepare your applique, of course you need your pieces of fabric, and I'm just going to put one on today. And we'll go over how to do different points and how to turn the different things. You need glue. Is that showing? Yep, you need your glue. My Elmer's washable school glue. Stuff is wonderful. Okay. You can buy the more expensive glues, but I haven't found them any better. This works just fine and it's cheap. It doesn't hurt. And you can needle through it. It also, so anyway, I've got my piece here. I need a pencil. I like to draw these on pencil. Now, if you really want to get lazy, like I do, is that you could take this to a Xerox machine, cut all these little pieces, glue it to that, and you're good to go. But I'm going to just do the tree. So here's my tree. So how I draw it is here I'm going to take, this is part of it, and then this is where the tree extends out, and draw here. Any place I have a solid line means that it's lying on top of another piece. So this one is good. And I'm doing the tree. And there's some really, this is a good one too, not to start with. You probably want to start with easy lines. And I like pencil because if you mess up, you just erase it. Here and here. And I'm going to put dash lines because I know this is going to be underneath another piece. And I want to leave about 1/4 of an inch. Same thing here. This here is the other house. So therefore, this is not going to, see right here, the roof is going, this is all going to be underneath. So this is not going to be underneath. This is going to be underneath. This is not, and here we go. Okay, so how I know these are all solid. Right here is where it's lying underneath another piece, and right over here means that's lying underneath. So I'm going to actually cut that so that it lays underneath. So I'm going to take paper scissors and I'm going to cut out this number 1 piece. I'm going to cut it out on probably the dotted line, but show the dotted line. Cut it right on the solid line, but just a little bit outside of the dotted line. And I can see the dotted line over here, and you want to be fairly careful here cutting. Like I said, if you want, you might want to try this piece because this is probably one of the harder pieces to do. So if you can master this one, hey, you're good to go. It's got everything we need. And what I did is I drew it on the rinse away, tear away stabilizer. And the reason I'm using that is because you're not taking this out. It's not like freezer paper where you have to take the template out. This is going to stay there. And it's once you wash it or even wet it, it's going to become really soft and pliable. So it actually doesn't matter if you leave it there. In fact, it gives that applique piece a tiny bit of texture too on top of it. Okay. Then you're thinking, there is no way that I'm going to be able to do this because that is a tiny, convoluting, swirling all over the place piece. But yes, you will. It's a lot easier than you think. Get it out of the way. I'm almost cut out. Okay, there's my piece, and I'll probably write 1 on it so that I'll know what it is because I'll forget. Okay, then you're going to take your piece of fabric, and that's going to be for the tree. I want to leave about 1/4 of an inch all the way around, and then this is where it helps to have an extra piece of paper or extra piece of stabilizer, because now you're going to take the glue and just lightly put it on the back so it doesn't shift around. Okay, and I want to, and sometimes when it's really curvy like that, I'm going to put the curves mainly into the bias. And this is where I like to have a pressing board, a hard surface to press on. Get it out of the drawer. Doesn't have to be soft. I can work right here. Then I have my iron. I turn it on. Maybe it's off. Don't want steam. It actually helps to have the small little clover irons, and I just left mine downstairs because you're going to heat set that into place. Okay. Alrighty, and then I want to take some sharper scissors, like real ones. Although I like, and then I'm going to cut this. Now where I have the dotted lines, I want to cut outside of that substantially. You want to cut around the solid lines a generous 1/8. Not a 1/4 and not just an 1/8, but a generous 1/8. More like maybe, what 1/4 is 2/8. I don't know what that would be. It's math again. I can't do math. So I'm going to cut this out. I want to clip the curves. This I'm not doing anything with because that's going to be underneath the house. Then over here I'm going to clip. and right almost to the edge, right to the end, I'm going to clip any inside points, and then inside curves you want to clip. Okay, that's all I'll do. I usually don't do it all at one time. Okay, then I'm going to take my protective piece, and I like to work on the board. You want a flathead screwdriver. Here's one that came with the machine. It's a nice one to use. Any of these will, this one's a little big. Any of these will do as a tool to help turn. Now, if you've seen on, I think, the Quilt Show and a couple other places, there's a product called Applique that you could buy, these surgical steel instruments that I haven't bought them because I do just as well with this. I don't like that one, but my favorite is this one because it's a little longer. Okay, then you're going to take your glue. I don't need to do this. This is all up underneath that house. So that's going to be right here. So it's underneath, so I don't have to do any of that part. Just leave it plain. But this is where I start to turn. So I will do maybe start at the end, and I'll start into this curve. Maybe just the first curve. I don't do but an inch or two at a time because your glue's going to dry out, and you don't want that to happen. I've glued it here. I probably want to move this to another part of the paper or a different paper. Okay. You have the flat end and you have the chisel end. So we're going to start with the chisel end. So you're just going to push that chisel end like this and flip down. And you're going to make little tiny pleats along the curves. So some of these that are rounded, you just simply push them into place and they're going to stay. Okay, and see, it's going to stay pretty well. And then now we're coming into this tight bend. So now I'm just going to take smaller ones. Again, I am taking the chisel end right at the end and giving it a tiny pleat. Tiny pleat, tiny pleat, tiny pleat along the end, tiny pleat, and let's see right here, and see how, now if it's not perfect, and I'm going to take it, now when I come to this inside curve, I'm going to jam the chisel end right up into that inside point, push, hold it down, and then smooth this along. Then I usually will turn it over, and do I see any little icky parts, you know, the parts that are angles, that it's not quite, well, this glue is not dry yet, so you've got a few minutes that you can just simply push this into place, get all the little jagged edges, and when you say, I'm happy with that, hit it with an iron, it's heat set down, it's not going to move on you. Okay? So now I'll do this one more time, and then I'll just get a piece. I'll show you how you do a point, an outside corner. So I'll do one more. Oops, did I cut that one? I don't remember if I cut. Yeah, I did. I didn't think I had. Oops. I usually like to glue on one side, and I'll do like a whole little area, and you can put it, I don't put a whole lot of glue on the paper end, as you're trying to keep that on the seam allowance. Okay, again, bring it over here and jam that way. Okay, so now you've got a nice point. If you want to sit there, I usually will pick it up and just sort of take that, push it, and then start working up this way. And once you get used to it, at first it's going to be slow, but you know, I can do, well, granted, this pattern's got so many, 54 pieces, so that's a lot. Probably take me a couple of evenings to make all the pieces. Usually what I do is I make all my pieces, and then I set it in. Okay. Okay. And check it. Nope, I got some points right here. I got a point here that I don't like the way that looks, so I mush it. Very technical term, mush it. And heat set it down. Okay. Now let's just say I've done all this. Okay, finished it all. I'm going to go back to my piece, background piece. I will line up. Usually I'll write on this because it's easy to put this backwards. So if I can read the numbers, then I know I've got it going the right way. So here I've got this lined up, and I've lost my clip. Usually I'll clip them. And I've lost, here's the other clip. Okay. If you like, you can take a piece of tweezers. Then what you do is that you take, I'm not going to glue it because I'm not done with this, but I would take the glue on the inside here, lift this underneath, and if you like, you can use tweezers if it's a small little piece. Put this into position, and see that once well, see, now I've got it lined up there. It could go a little more up because I haven't done that part. There. Okay. Then when I get them in there, like I usually will put one layer at a time. Like I don't normally will pay attention to all of the lines. So I know I could theoretically come over to here. That's the reverse one. Okay, this I know is the first piece underneath here. I could probably lay down this piece. I could lay down this piece, this one, this one, and the moon. Then I could go ahead and sew all those, then come back and do the next. I usually have them all pretty pre-made, but not always. Sometimes I'll just work on a section at a time. And then once you're done, like I said, you take this, once you got it, the glue's going to hold it for a little while. Once you have your pieces in place, you heat set them down. And they stay there. They're not going to move so that you can do your stitching. Okay? Now the next piece, I'm going to change this one a little bit. That the house has these windows. Oh no, I told you what I was going to do. I was going to tell you how to do points and stuff. So let's just say I do, well, say I have a square. We'll just do a square on a scrap of something. Okay, so here's my square piece. Corners are easy to do. 90-degree corners are real easy to do. You'd set that down so it doesn't move. And I probably recommend for this week that if you're not comfortable doing all those little pieces, just try your basic shapes. Even if you're not going to be doing an applique, and you may not want to have a piece that you want to do, I'd recommend that you try these shapes. At least try to form the shapes. Again, I'm going to cut it, rough cut it. Okay. And with corners, I'm just going to use this piece of paper here. I don't have to worry about it. Okay. Run my corner along the edge, two edges. Take my screwdriver. In fact, if it's a straightaway, usually you can just pinch it by hand. You don't have to use the screwdriver. Okay. Alrighty. I have one side down. I know that this one's going to cross, so it's one of two things. I can take the chisel end of my screwdriver and push this down and pre-crease it. Or you can take your thumbnail and give it a crease. Okay, 90 degrees is easy because this is just going to fall on itself. see if you can see that. See, it's a nice sharp square, but this is an easy piece to do. There it is. See, this is nice and straight. That's easy to do. It's 90 degrees. Even in regular needle turn, this isn't hard. But let's just say we're going to have this shape, like a leaf. Okay? That's a sharp point. Okay? Leaves, when you have a sharp point, put it to the bias. So this is my bias. I'll set that down. See, now it won't slide around. I'm going to cut it out. And if you want to try a bigger applique, it's up to you. It's easier. Okay, so I'm going to start sort of in the middle because I have points on both ends. So I'm just coming from the middle to the edge. Okay, and I'm going to start here all the way to there. Okay. So you have this little point sticking, this little triangle here. Okay, I'm going to pinch. A lot of times I use my thumbnail to crease. That's my next fold right there. And it has this little extra little triangle. I will start from the triangle out, this, to the middle, and snip that off. That get a little more. That will reduce some of the bulk. And then I'm going to take this and sort of over, like here's my point right there. I'm going to over push it. So I'm going to sort of scoot it like that. I'll probably pinch it again. I'm just going to put it on the point, not much. Okay, and I'm going to, see this fold right here? I'm going to make sure that fold is even here. So I'm just going to fold that over so that it's even inside, and I'm not going to care about the rest of it. Okay? Okay, I'm going to push this down again with the chisel end to pre-crease my fabric, and then I'll work to the opposite end. If it doesn't want to stay, and there's some fabrics that just will defy staying still, like this one's doing. Okay, then I come over here, and then I start with my curve. And see how that's not wanting to stay? When it's not wanting to stay, stop, make this little section just right. And I've got a nasty little pokey there. Take that out. I'm just going to hit the tip right there. Now that point's not going to lift on me anymore, because now because it was making me angry. Okay, and now push down all the way to here. Repeat again. Now, before I go any further, this is wanting to lift. So I'm just going to heat set it down. Just touch it for a second. That's all you need. Okay, again, here we go. This is the other side. I'm going to chisel that point, pre-fold it, cut that triangle off, and overfold it so that it starts to curve that way. Chisel it again with the point. Don't need much, just a little bit. Little dab will do ya. Okay, and then fold to fold, and then start to move. Now, I don't have glue here, and I don't want that popping up, so now put the glue on the last little section. Oops, that came out. And sometimes I'll turn it over and see that overfolded, so I'm just going to squish it back. Just tuck it under. Make it nice and sharp. Hit it with the iron. Okay, and I think it's good all the way. That might need a little reforming there. I'll hit it on the front side. Now this piece is ready to go in. If it's got any little hairs, I'll just tuck those in. So that's got a little hair sticking out. Just tuck it in. Look at the nice points. Whoops. Let me go over here. That point is awesome. Let me put it behind here so you can see it. That point is really sharp. And like I said, this one isn't perfect, so I will push it in. Okay. All right. Then that piece is ready to put in. And like I said, if I were going to put this on, I would position, just put a little bit of glue on the back. And sit on. It's not going to show. Another. Oh, we'll just pretend that's fabric. Heat set it down. It's not going to move. See, well, I didn't heat set it down long enough, and it doesn't like this paper. Heat set it down for a couple seconds. You'll know because it's not purple anymore, and see, that's not going to come off. And even though it's flipped up a little bit, it's going to stay in place while you stitch it. And then you would just do your stitching here, or you could take it to your machine. What I like about having the stabilizer on the inside, so even if you're doing machine applique, this is stabilized already. You don't need to be adding a lot of stabilizer to the back of your background piece in order to machine applique it. So, your homework, okay? Your homework is to prepare your background piece. Yes, Carolyn says that looks like a lot of work, and there's a lot of pieces. Yeah, I picked the one with lots of pieces. Now I've got lots of appliques that have very few pieces, and could we have done those? Yeah, but I don't need those done. I need this last one of this applique series for the table runner because I'm sick of doing these. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Okay, homework. Find an applique you want to do. Doesn't have to be this one. Find something simple. Find something big enough as a mug rug, you know, whatever, coaster even. But I want you to practice, because this part of the applique, setting up these pieces, is going to make your applique look much better, even if you do machine applique, because you have got turn pieces. I like the handwork because the handwork really looks like it's just floating off the fabric. Find your design, draw out, get a piece of document protector and draw your design. If you like, you could go ahead and trace out all of your pieces that you want to do and cut them out on your base fabric. So in other words, you would just take whatever shape this is, put it on your base fabric, and then you'd be ready to go. And then next week we'll talk about placing them a little more. We'll talk a little bit about some of those harder to do pieces to applique, which is mostly going to be these points. And we're going to show you how to do little teeny tiny 1/16 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch wide bars. So anyway, see you guys later. Miss you guys. Stay safe, stay healthy. Love you. Bye.